Hi, I'm Josh Tofani, the Field Training Manager at Deep Well Services. Today we're going to discuss setting the jack reliefs. These are valves tied into the hydraulic plumbing that limit how much we can push or pull with the jack.
All Deep Well HCUs are fitted with dual jack reliefs. This means we have a separate relief for the rod and the blind side of the jack cylinders, which allows us to control the snub force independently from the lift force. These reliefs can only function the way they are intended if they are set correctly by the operator. If they are dialed in all the way, you will get full jack pressure from the power pack. The first step to setting the snub relief is to work out the snub force calculation. This is part of every pre-job safety meeting and is incorporated into the JSA. The friction factor in the equation accounts for the extra force needed to overcome the annular or the rams. Next, it is important to cross-reference the calculated snub force with the buckling information for the tubing you will be using. This will provide you with the unsupported length you can have during the snubbing operation. We always use 80% of max capacity to allow for a safety factor. Be mindful that unsupported length and stroke length are two different values. Without the tubing guides installed, your points of support are the traveling snubbers and the annular seam. Since we have 3.8 feet from the top of the stationary tower to the annular seam, installing a stationary tower guide will give you almost 4 foot more support. Once you are ready to set the snub relief, rev the unit up, ensure the Husco is out of regen so the pedal is pressed, and set the tubing weight in your stationary slips if you have tubing in the stack. Next, bottom out your jack, dial out your snub relief. You might have to pull back on the handle to reset the gauge to 0 before dialing the relief back in. Then you can press the jack handle forward and dial in the snub relief until your calculated snub force is achieved. Anytime the snub relief or stroke length is adjusted after the initial setting, the pipe buckling charts must be referenced to determine the new maximum unsupported length or the snub relief setting. An example of this would be when balance point is reached and the operator starts taking longer strokes but is still using his snubbing slips. Short strokes while snubbing can substantially increase the safety factor of the relief setting and are encouraged during all snubbing operations. Before setting your lift relief, find out the tensile capacity for the tubing you will be using and calculate an 80% safety factor. Talk with the oil and gas company representative and discuss if even a smaller percentage should be used for max pull. This could be due to older tubing, potential hydrates, plug parts, etc. The lift force should never be set greater than 80% of the max tensile strength of the BHA or work string. Rev the unit up to operating speed and ensure the Husco is out of regen mode. The pedal is pressed. Pull back on the jack handle and dial in the lift force relief until the jack starts to move. Gently top out the jack and keep dialing in the lift relief until your max setting as calculated in the pre-job safety meeting is reached. If you're preparing to pull out of the hole with a work string after a drill out is complete, it's acceptable to bottom out your jack, grab a bite of the tubing, dial out your lift relief, pull back on the jack handle, and dial your relief in until the jack starts to move. Once you get an accurate up weight, set the tubing in your stationary slips, top your jack out, and set your lift relief to 10,000 pounds over your up weight. Be sure to stay within 80% of the tubing's max capacity or the predetermined pull when using this process.
When the unit is switched between 2-leg and 4-leg, the reliefs must be set again. This is very important because it'll take half as much pressure in 4-leg as it will in 2-leg to apply the same amount of force. Always verify your relief settings when you're starting your shift. It's important to keep them lubricated with some anti-seize or oil, especially after pulling brine. Thank you for joining me today, and feel free to shoot an email out to training@deepwellservices.com if you have any questions. Stay safe.